Good evening, everyone. Good evening and welcome back. Welcome back to London. No, welcome back to the PorscheCooled podcast. My name is Michael Barth. It is Friday's episode. Steve's here. Hi, Steve.
Hi, mate. How you going?
You're very soft. I can hardly hear you. Where are you?
I said, hello, mate. How are you going?
Your levels
Hello. Hello.
Steve's here. Welcome back, everyone. If you haven't been here before, welcome. And like I said, if you've been here before, welcome back. This is the PorscheCooled podcast. We'll try to keep it together today.
Sort of.
Sort of. We're recording this Tuesday night. You guys know that already. Tuesday night in London. Wednesday. I'm trying to work out what day it is in Sydney, mate. Wednesday morning in Sydney.
My kids are yet to go off, but they will shortly.
And Steve's children are very quiet today. For those of you who are missing the sounds of the children in the background, they'll be here shortly. Don't worry.
Don't jinx us.
So let's start with the usual. I want to just do a couple of shout outs as I usually do, Steve. We've got a new member. For those of you who don't know, PorscheCooled is on Patreon, and Patreon is the place where you can go and sponsor a child. No, you can sponsor PorscheCooled. You can join.
Child?
You can join PorscheCooled. You can support the podcast. You can pay a little bit each week. It's up to you, $2 to $10, and it just helps keep us talking. As you know, this podcast is not sponsored by anyone, primarily because no one's approached us. So that's probably the reason why. I don't know why, because Steve's the advertising man, and he hasn't got us any sponsors. So I'm not sure what's happening there, Steve. Why haven't you got us any sponsors?
I'm in creative, not sales, mate. I'd have no idea how that works.
I know you're in creative. That's why I just wanted you to say, because I know how much you like suits, as you called them.
Yeah. What about how awful would that be to have a sales job in advertising?
Really? I thought that was a very, very lucrative position.
Yeah, I don't know about that. It probably goes all right if you're a particular type of personality, but that certainly is just not my cup of tea. I have no idea how you...
But is that a really hard job these days? I mean, going back 10 years when you're in your peak of advertising, it must be a hard job now, right?
Terrible job, yeah. Worst job in an agency is kind of being in charge of your business and trying to kind of drum up, sort of things out of nowhere and stuff like that. Be awful.
Keeping the client happy, not easy, not easy. I always like to be one step away from the client. Lately, I'm not really one step away. Well, I am one step away on this project. The last two projects, I wasn't one step away. I had direct client-to-client interaction in various countries in the Middle East, which wasn't always fun.
Yeah, look, from a creative point of view, like that's actually, because I'm working for myself now, I've discovered that clients actually prefer it. They prefer to talk to the person that's doing the work because it's much quicker and clearer and all of that sort of stuff. And they know, like, with my sort of superb personality, that they're not going to get like the all singing, all dancing kind of thing, but they actually appreciate that they'll just get a straight answer instead, which is kind of interesting. Yeah,
well, it saves time, doesn't it? It doesn't go through all the multiple channels and then gets lost in translation, which it always does, and then it takes a long time to sort out. I mean, we know those situations; they always happen. Let me go back to the Patreon, Steve. So we've got one new member of Patreon. I want to say a big hello to Nick. Steve. Nick has joined PorscheCooled this week, a couple of days ago, I think. I'm not sure.
Go, Nick.
Go, Nick. I'm not sure if Nick has a Porsche. He hasn't mentioned it. I hope, Nick, you haven't reached out to me before and I just don't remember who you are. My memory lately has been terrible, Steve. Let me just finish this. So that's Nick, who's joined PorscheCooled on Patreon. Like I said, if you want to join PorscheCooled, you just go to Porsche. Why do I always say that? Patreon.com/PorscheCooled, or just search PorscheCooled on Patreon and it'll come up straight away. Cool. What was I going to say? My memory is really, really bad. You know what? This week's owner stories, I've got Daniel from Brisbane. Daniel has a 944. And he's got a good story. He's got a 944 in garnet red. And I think I said at the beginning of the podcast, I haven't had anyone on with a 944. But, I think I have had people on with 944s. I know I've had people on who have owned 944s and 924s before. I mean, James at Porsche Platz. Here I am going. I'm brought this up and I can't even remember. But there has been a few people. But, I've done... I'm pretty good at remembering everyone. But at the moment, and I think it's because I've got a lot on my mind, mate, that everything's becoming a bit muddled. So, like, I'm trying to think of who is who in the owner stories, and not necessarily names. It's like who owned what, and it's sort of like it's all sort of merging into one a little bit now, so I'm getting a little bit confused. So I apologize to when I say those things on owner stories and I forget about the other people who have been on previous episodes.
It's time to retire, mate. Time
to retire, yeah. Maybe we should put that as a survey. Who wants us to retire? Should we,
Do it.
Is it time to wind down PorscheCooled, or is it time to keep going?
Yeah.
Okay, so retire, Steve. So Daniel's on this week's PorscheCooled owner stories. Daniel's, like I said, he's got a 1985 model year 944 Garnet Red. It's got BBS wheels. I'm pretty sure it's BBS. Enjoyed chatting with Daniel. He's bought a car. You know, Steve, I know you haven't listened to it, but he owns a Ducati Monster. He wanted a car that wasn't necessarily blistering fast. He did have his head set on getting something from the 70s and 80s, from his like childhood memories and things that were around his house. And he pretty much did want, and I know, Daniel, you're listening, he pretty much did want a 944. And he found a 944 from our favorite Porsche suburb, Steve, in Melbourne.
Brighton,
that's right.
Oh, there's so many Porsches in Brighton.
He found this but Daniel's 944, and I know I'm going to get this wrong, I think it's had like 4 or 5 owners. It's a 1985 and it's only had 4 or 5 owners, which is quite remarkable for a car that old. You know what I mean? And it's not a pristine. It's mechanically, he had a PPI done on it before he bought it. The engine and that was fine. I think that, there's cosmetic things and little things like that, but the engine was fine. I think he says on the podcast how much he paid for it. I won't say it now just in case he didn't. I can't remember, but he didn't pay that much for it. But it wasn't about making money. It was just about getting something that, like I said, it wasn't just about performance. It was about the experience. It's his first Porsche. He sold an Alpha to get it. He had an older Alpha, which he sold to get it. And I think it looks pretty cool. I mean, you see the photos on the Instagram I posted today, because it's Tuesday. It just went up live today. And it looks good. It's not an S. It's not a turbo. It's just a 944, but it's manual. I think it suits that color. I think it looks good in the Garnet Red. I think it's pretty cool. I have another 944 owner actually coming up as well in the next couple of weeks. So that should be good. So make sure you check out Daniel's story. He doesn't have an Instagram. I said that I would put his email. He said to put his email in the description. I'll put his email in the description of the YouTube video. It's just easier. So if you go to YouTube, you can see Daniel's email there if you want to reach out and ask him anything about his 944.
Cool.
Steve.
I'll send him some pictures of my knob.
Yeah. Do you want to do that now? So, Steve, let's
send him some knob pictures.
I want to just tell everyone. Everyone knows that we've been talking about Steve's knobs for a while. His wooden knobs that he's buying. I mean, Steve's got a lot of money to spare. So he's bought how many?
Tons.
You bought a few from Carbone. You bought what? 3 from Carbone? 2?
No, 2.
2 from Carbone.
Well,
2 from Carbone.
Technically 1 from Carbone, 1 from Joel 911 Outlaw, the guy that actually makes them.
Yeah. And they're nice. So he's got the black shaft one and he's got the silver shaft one. The full-on ebony, the dark ebony wood. I quite like that one, actually.
Yeah, I do too.
Except I showed Natasha and she likes the two-tone one, the oak. Oak and smoked oak, isn't it?
Smoked oak, yep.
So they're really good. If you want to upgrade the shifter in your car, you want to upgrade the knob. Carbone has one. Joel, what's Joel's last name? I always forget.
Konosenko.
Joel Konosenko is the guy that makes them.
Go to 911outlaw.com.
911outlaw.com. He makes them.
Or Carbone. Like Carbone, I think, still have a 15% off sale on the shifters at the moment. So
yeah, so I will post the link. If people haven't seen it, the LatheWorks link. I won't put it on my Instagram, but I'll post a link of the one that Steve sent me, and one of them's your knob, Steve, right? One of the ones is yours in that latest Instagram post.
One on the right.
One on the right. I'll post that post on the Discord. If you don't know what Discord is, that's just like a community group there. I haven't been there this week. Yep. I haven't been there this week, sorry, and I've seen you guys have been chatting. A few people have been chatting on there. Other people have been joining. It's starting to gain momentum. Yeah, it's starting to get momentum. So if you have a chance, Steve, just go there and say hello or post something and chat to the guys that are online if you feel like it. I haven't been there this week at all.
Pictures of my knob.
Yeah, when it comes. Like I was going to post that Instagram post you sent me today. I just didn't get around to it, and I thought the guys would be interested in seeing that. It's a really, like Steve sent it to me, and I have to say to you guys, like I didn't want one. And then I saw...
Yes, you did.
No, then I wanted the black one, the black, polymer or whatever it's called.
Polymer one, yep.
And this is Latheworks. This is the Latheworks company that you guys, I know some people have already ordered one from Latheworks. But Steve got the wood version, didn't you, Steve? Tell them about the wood version. I'm not quite sure what it was.
As well. So, like, my original order was for the black copolymer thing. You started it because you sent me the link from Renlist. Blah, blah, blah. So I ordered that. Then somewhere along the line, look, to be honest, he has been slow. So if you do go and order something, it's not as quick as it states on the thing because he's obviously just kind of smashed with orders. But hopefully it's all worth it. So whilst I was waiting, I noticed he posted an Instagram post and he also kind of lathes up some exotic wood kind of knobs on there. And like all of this is custom. He literally kind of lathes it up himself. So he's kind of old school craftsman. So I reached out to him and just sort of said, I saw you did kind of wooden things. Like how hard would it be to kind of add that to the order? And he said, yeah, what do you want? Here's three different types of timber that he recommended. I suppose he had them in stock. And they're pretty, I think they're sort of a little bit kind of rarer. They're not your standard oak type thing. I can't remember what I got.
How much were they?
It's another $100 to get the extra knob on top of it.
I think what's really nice about them is the shape. When you see the shape and you see the one Steve's got has got this beautiful, beautiful grain, like this circular grain or something on one side, hasn't it? It's very, it's really, really special wood. Like if you like looking at, crafts, really beautiful work, this is just beautiful. The wood, the quality. I mean, he's done a really, really good job.
Go and look at I find it actually interesting because I had no idea about all this stuff. But if you follow Latheworks, is it Latheworks or WC Latheworks? I think it might be.
I think it's
on
WC.
Instagram.
Yeah.
He just posts like, when he's making stuff. And it's just like, oh, wow, it's mesmerizing to kind of see, something spinning on the machine. And then he kind of puts his little knife thing in there. And then all of a sudden he's kind of carving and working up these kind of pieces. So everything's kind of hand done. And he works in titanium and stainless and copolymer and this wood. So anyway, so he sent me an email during the week and just sort of said, hey, it'll be in the mail in a sec. And then I kind of connected it because I noticed that on Insta he kind of posted like some Porsche things. So it's like, oh yeah, it's mine. It's pretty cool. So I sent it to Michael and it looks pretty good to me, but I'm a little bit unsure.
I wasn't following him.
Oh, you weren't? Okay.
No.
Just to kind of round out the story, I shortened it. So when I looked at what he kind of did as a standard thing, I changed the spec and shortened it by 1 inch because it looked too tall. I went and measured up my carbone one, my sort of standard one, blah, blah, blah. Figured that visually it looked too tall to me, so I shortened it by 1 inch.
Yeah.
Now that I've seen that picture, I suspect I may have shortened it a bit too much.
Yeah, I thought you did the right thing because I thought the one from Stuttgart Klassiker, as we said before, was a bit long. And this one seemed to be about the same length. And I thought you did the right thing. But in the image, it does look a little short. It looks a bit stubby.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah, it looks a bit stubby. It may not be though, Steve, once you've put it in there. Maybe it's okay.
Well, the thing is that on the circular knob, like that's just the round ball, the copolymer one, there's a collar, which is sort of like an extra bit of rod underneath it. So when you put the two things together, and I'm going to have the rod itself powder coated black, so when the whole thing is black, it might not look short, but I suspect that I may have shortened it just a touch too much.
Did I mention this is a new segment? Is this part of the new segment? Is this part of a recommendation from Michael and Steve? I didn't even mention that, did I?
Could be.
Is this that
let's
part?
Just make it.
Yeah, let's just make that. I mean, so this is a thing we're going to do every episode now, and it's I haven't really got a good name.
It's a stolen idea.
No, it's not a stolen. Don't say things like that.
Why not?
It's not.
We're retiring.
We're calling it a recommendation from Michael and Steve, or Steve and Michael, whatever sounds better.
Oh.
New segment. We'll call it a new segment. It's not a comedy segment. We're not a comedy show here. We're not very funny.
No.
So Steve's mentioned it before, but you would say that is definitely a strong recommendation for the listeners, right, Steve?
I think so. I mean, I haven't gotten it yet, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be kind of pretty good. So, well, there's a couple. There's the 911 Outlaw one through Carbone is definitely a recommendation. I would highly recommend that. It's a really good product and absolutely nothing wrong with it. I'm just an idiot in terms of having a go at this one as well. But Latheworks, I think, also is really good.
Yeah, I think they're both good. I think they're the picks. You know what I mean? I agree. I'm still trying to work out. Which one, what I want. Because at first, the other day I was thinking, well, I actually wouldn't mind, here I'm going crazy like you. I wouldn't mind the Carbone one because I like the two oaks together. I thought maybe I should just get that. And I don't mind the silver rod in my car. I think the silver rod's okay in my car, right? I think they
suit your car, yeah.
Yeah, I think they offer black now on Carbone though. I think they started offering black, haven't they? But then
Yes,
then I liked the Latheworks with the black copolymer, and I thought that's the one I wanted. So then I went off the wood. And then the other day I was thinking, maybe I could get the wood, the copolymer and the wood one, not at the same time. Be crazy like you have to. And then you show me your wood one. I'm thinking, shit, which wood one is better? Is the Carbone one better or is that one better?
No, well, if you're going to do it, just get both.
They're different
That's
shape.
the whole thing.
I can't have three. That's insane. I've got no money.
Well, look, hello to Marco, who's hopefully kind of listening again. But Marco's now hooked because I think Marco was sending me pics because he was thinking about the function first.
Yeah. I've seen those. Yeah.
Which I've seen online sort of a fair bit. I said this to Marco too, like it's not quite my cup of tea because it looks a little bit chunky in its proportions. And I actually think the Latheworks one might be too. But so Marco was pretty much ready to, I think, maybe order a function first one. But then I think he said that he discovered that they're so busy that they won't take new orders as well. And then I sent him that same post, and he's now interested in Latheworks.
Really? He's not interested?
Yes, he is interested in Latheworks now.
Function first is very forum hyped to me. It seems very forum hyped. I don't know, maybe it's good quality, but it seems like, everyone on the forums talk about it, so therefore people just want it because it's spoken about more than anything else.
Yeah, it's hard not to get tempted when you read the forum stuff.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that when I heard of them first, they became a Renault sponsor.
Oh, right.
Can't remember if it was 997 or the GT3 kind of forums, but they sponsored it. So then pretty much every day they were kind of posting and sort of sharing their wares. I think they started with short shift kits. They were adapting, changing the plastic bushings out for metal ones.
Yeah. All right, that's Steve's recommendation. I've got a recommendation. Being, as I said, along, many episodes, I'm not buying any more books because I don't want to take them back to Australia. Well, I just bought another book. It's not a Porsche book, though. And as I said on my post today, don't hate me, because I bought a Ferrari book. I bought a Ferrari book, Steve, a V8 Ferrari book. I do like the V8 Ferraris, and I do like the 80s V8, late 70s V8s, 70s and 80s V8 Ferraris.
Cool.
And I'm very keen on the 328 GTS. I really appreciate it, but I've really got a hankering for that Dino GT4. The really good one in Sydney sold, and I'm keen on them big time. I'm a very big fan of David in New Zealand's yellow one. And Paul in New Zealand's 328 GTS, but David's yellow one is very, very cool. I know, David, you're listening. That car is a really nice one. I love that yellow, that Giallo yellow, whatever it's called. I can't remember the name, but that yellow is beautiful.
Is it fly
so anyway,
yellow?
What's it called?
Was it fly yellow?
Maybe. It's a nice one, though. The yellow is really nice. I like the yellow better than red. So anyway, you go to certain places for car books. If you're looking for really good car books, I always search on Amazon, Steve. This book came up on Amazon. In fact, I had it in my cart, and I've had it in my cart for a year. And it was available at various sellers. It's out of print. It's an 80s book. I think it went out of print in the 80s. Like, it really is an 80s book. It's not a new book. Right. It's a used book. It's immaculate. It's immaculate. The guy's he's in the UK. It came in a day. It's David Thomas Motoring Books. Some of you in the UK might have heard of this website. The web address is allautobooks.com, Steve, allautobooks.com. And it's David Thomas Motoring Books. I think his story is he retired and then he started buying all these books and now he sells them. He's got Porsche books. He's got magazines, some magazines. He's got Ferrari books. You know, he's got every mark, basically. He's got so many books. It's a really good site. Like I said, I think he had this book on Amazon. I think on Amazon it was more expensive and I bought it directly from his site. And I paid nothing in shipping because I'm in the UK, so it was only like £4 or something shipping. But I would recommend it if you're looking for car books and you just want to look for classic books. Have a look at it, especially ones that are out of print. Ones from the 80s, ones from the 70s, etc. He seems to have. He's got heaps. He's got a really good collection. So that's my recommendation, Steve.
Cool. More books.
More books. That's it. I'm not buying any more. That's it. I just want to read out two Apple ratings and reviews. If you want to give the podcast a review, give it a star rating. It really does help us get seen in the Apple podcast charts. I think this week, Steve, I looked at one stage. I think we were 38 in the US at one point there. 38. Wow. I think that's, cool. Was it 35? It was pretty high. And this is due to the fact that a lot of people have left us reviews. Like I said, I think we're up to about 120 reviews or something like that on the podcast in total, globally. Had a couple of reviews this week. Great content. I'm not going to read them out. I'm just going to tell you what it is. Great content is the title, and that was from Avi in Sydney. Thank you, Avi. And great podcast for a new Porsche owner, and that was from Jerry Darkid in the US. So thank you guys for those two reviews and ratings. Much appreciated.
Cool.
Steve, what else? What else? Hey, what about that car? What do you think of that, Daniel? For you, I just tell the listeners. Daniel Arsham is an artist, a designer. I mean, he's got a very cool house, and he does lots of collaborations with fashion brands. And he's, you know, the Porsche one I saw actually in Selfridges in London, the concrete type one, the worn.
Was it any good?
Yeah, it looked pretty cool. It looked cool.
Is that his signature thing? I don't really know that much about him.
Yeah,
like
I think
sort of sculptural things where it looks like it's made out of concrete, and then there's sort of little bits that have kind of come away from it.
I think it is.
Yeah, okay.
And then I saw people like a few people on Instagram. Actually, he sent them a small version of that. They had a small version of that. It came out with the Type 7 book. The Type 7 book. Some people got like a edition that Type 7 book, and then a model of the car, because he did the cover on the new Type 7 book, the one I just bought recently, the second version. What do you think of it? I mean, I don't know if the listeners have seen it yet, but it's a 73 Porsche, what do they call it? 73 Porsche RSA project.
He's called it an RSA, yeah.
Yeah, RSA. He did the Crystal Eroda Porsche, which we were just talking about. He's done they say 1986 Porsche 930A Turbo. I'm not sure which one that is. And that's
the white one, isn't it? Yeah.
Oh, is that the white one?
Yep.
And this one is a 1973, I'm just reading this just so everyone knows, 1973 Porsche RSA Asham Studios track-ready chassis. It's a track-ready car. It didn't look track-ready. Features the iconic 2.7-litre flat six. What else does it have, Steve? I don't like the livery on the side, though. The stripes on the side were a bit weird to me.
Yeah, it's yellow on yellow. And I normally like a yellow car, but it's obviously super kind of retro, very 70s looking thing. I didn't read too much about it. Sort of had a quick squeeze at the aesthetics of it more than anything. And the interior is sort of like got sort of...
It's brown, isn't it?
That seems to be quite fashionable at the moment. Yeah, sort of like a browny, tanny, sort of patinaed type leather.
Well, I took the spiel off DuPont Registry's website. This is where I got it from. Okay. This is where I saw it. I'm sure it's in a lot of places. And it just says the 70s inspired design features a gloss yellow paint job with pale yellow bumpers to commemorate the RSR race cars from that era, complementing the yellow paint a light blue accents throughout the exterior of the Porsche RSA, including the custom Arsham decals and wheels. I don't know what the custom Arsham decals and wheels are. And the interior is done in wide whale chocolate brown. Yeah,
it's more he's ripped off the old school cursive Carrera type and put Arsham on there.
Oh, really?
That's all that is. Yeah.
But, you know, it's his third Porsche project. This is the third car he's done. So he's obviously got some relationship with Porsche, right? He's obviously got some relationship with them. I don't like it. I don't like it because he's got his...
Ted Gushue and the Type 7 crowd because, it's all sort of designy and arty kind of stuff.
Yeah, but I don't like it. It's got his name down the side on the script. Where you normally have Porsche on the bottom of the doors, he's got Asham. I don't think it looks right. I don't know. I just don't like how it looks.
Maybe you should do that. Maybe you should put Bath down the side of your car.
That'd be funny. Imagine that. Imagine that.
Michael.
I don't know. I don't get it. I don't get it. Hey, what happened to your battery? Tell the listeners about your battery and why it was so expensive.
I got it replaced. To be perfectly honest, I kind of just rolled up, had a chat to the guys. It took them an hour to replace it. So they previously put a Varta battery in the GT3, which lasted more than 6 years. I went back and looked at the invoices. So even if that one was sort of semi-okay, I just sort of thought, you know what, like I'm just better off changing it because there's nothing worse than having an unreliable car, a car that you sort of suspect may not start here and there. So Autohouse swapped it out. They actually I assumed that they would put the exact same model of Varta battery in, but they didn't. It was I had a look at it later, and I think it's an upgraded spec. I didn't ask. I'm not sure if that's because that's all they had in stock or whether or not this is like the new recommendation or whatever else. But this battery, I believe, is suitable for stop-start cars, which means it must be a different type of kind of thing. I know it's the same amperage.
Can I interrupt? Why would you need a stop-start battery in your car?
I suspect I don't.
Did you ask that question?
I didn't because I didn't ask anything about it until I got home and all that sort of stuff. So it turned out to be a little bit more expensive. I won't say exactly how much, but it did turn out to be more expensive than I was actually anticipating. And that obviously is the reason why. The reason why is because they put a different spec battery in it, and also because, unfortunately for me, I've got a Tech-Art nose lift kit installed in my car, and it's butted right up against the battery, and it's a very temperamental kind of thing. So I was, in a normal world, I possibly may have even had a go at replacing it myself, but I didn't want to mess with the nose lift stuff. So it did actually take the guys an hour. I was standing there as they were kind of doing it. It did actually take them an hour to do the replacement. Is
that where they always put the Tech-Art lift kit, near the battery?
Yeah, I had a quick look at that too, and yes, some other people had sort of said the same thing.
So what is the Tech-Art lift kit that goes next to the battery? Is it a box? What is it actually?
Yeah, well, it's the ECU that kind of is the brains of the whole thing, and that's actually connected directly to the battery. Like I've noticed that it's literally kind of wired up to the positive and the negative posts on the battery itself.
ECU that talks to your shocks.
Well, yeah, that'll be the thing that's connected to the button on the inside of the inside the interior too. So when you press the button, that's the thing that kind of activates everything.
But you said a while ago, right? The Tech-Art isn't the latest technology now, is it? You can actually get better technology. Is that correct with KW and things like that?
Not sure. I'm not. I couldn't talk about it with any sort of proper kind of knowledge. I know that the factory nose lift kit in 997 is supposed to be desperately unreliable and craps out all the time. Like people had them replaced under warranty. The cars are obviously no longer under warranty, and when you kind of follow some Renault stuff, people kind of don't go for a car with nose lift because it won't work. So I do remember that this Tech-Art thing, which I had installed like 6 years ago, was granted Autohouse sort of said to me it's a well-made bit of kit and it's good. I can't remember if I don't think it's hydraulic, is it? Yeah, I think it's hydraulic.
So did they have to recalibrate? So you're saying it was very temperamental and they have to get in and do the battery, so that's why you had to take it to Autohouse. You couldn't just switch the battery out yourself.
Because I didn't want to fiddle. I didn't want to accidentally kind of bump a connection or not put something back in the spot that it kind of came with and then have my lift kit not work anymore.
Right. So they just have to test it afterwards because it's connected directly to the battery. So they have to make sure the connection is correct.
Just even the placement of it was butted right up. So like I think if I was going to try to pull the battery out, I would have had to kind of try to half remove that module, and I didn't want to go anywhere near it. basically.
Right.
Like if this was changing a battery in your car where you don't have that, like I would kind of go, yeah, I'm pretty sure that you could probably have a crack at swapping it out yourself.
Well, I remember the last cost they gave me. We're not going to talk about costs here, but the cost that they told me for my battery, which was a Vata, which is the correct one installed, was half the price you paid.
Yeah.
So that's, I'm guessing, because you've got a better battery and also the labor. I'm not saying it's too expensive. I'm just saying that's the reason why, right?
Yeah. I thought the same thing when I kind of walked away, but then I kind of realized why. Because when I looked at my old bill, it was half the price as well.
Yeah.
It was more in line with what. It's just more that, like, to be fair, if you go and change a battery at a dealership, which I've done once because I got stranded, they charge you all these crazy fees, like, you know, to charge the battery up and to do all this kind of stuff. And it wound up being like ridiculous on my 993.
Wow.
So, but to be fair, I do know that, like, it might not be as simple as, hey, unbolt your battery, rebolt the new one in, because I think if you change the spec of the battery, then they have to kind of plug in their POS system and recode, you know, like recode everything and all of that sort of stuff. Admittedly, that doesn't take an hour to do, which is what I think, like, a dealership will charge you, but it might not necessarily kind of be as easy as kind of unbolting and rebolting.
Yeah, you lose certain memory functions you put into the PCM, don't you? I think when you change your battery, I think certain things are lost. Or you
might have to reset things.
Yeah, certain things are lost. I think I remember reading that, or someone told me that. Did you listen to that? I listened to that Spike's Car Radio. I didn't think it was a very good episode, but I listened to that Spike's Car Radio with Farah when they're talking about the GT3 Touring. Did you listen to that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did.
So basically they're saying that is the case, that the GT3 Touring drives exactly the same as the GT3 with the wing. There's no difference.
Yeah, because it's the same car mechanically. It's just less downforce because there's no rear wing. But are you going to pick that if you're not on the track?
Yeah. Well, Matt Farah said it drives exactly the same.
Yep.
I think he was making fun of it, wasn't he? Because of the fact that why was there an embargo about we couldn't talk about this when it's exactly the same as the car that we've already spoken about?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yep, you're right. Yeah, I noticed Chris Harris posted on Instagram. He's obviously got his hands on, like, for whatever reason, Porsche globally seemed to release the press car as gentian blue with the neodyne, the gold wheels, right?
I like gentian blue, Genetian blue.
So Chris Harris posted a picture of it, and he's obviously had quite a few days. And I noticed his comment was he really quite likes it, and it's tempting. So it sounds like for somebody like him, he can actually kind of pick the difference between his car, which is the 991.2 Touring, to a 992.
What transmission did he say he liked? Because I remember I was listening to Spike and Matt talk about it, and he said, I think, was it Spike or Zuckerman was saying that they'd get the PDK.
Yeah,
they like the idea of the PDK, not the manual.
Yeah, I think they did say that. Chris Harris didn't say anything. It was only a very short Instagram post. But he's obviously, his signal yellow on his manual, and the one that he's, the press car that he's got, the 992, is also manual.
I wonder if he will upgrade from his 991.2.
See, like, because he's always sort of said that he'll just kind of drive that thing into the ground. Like, that's his second one, though, because he crashed his first one.
Yeah.
But it just, the implication of it was that he said that the 992 is better than the 991.2, and that he quite fancied one, which means, like, I guess if you're Chris Harris, then if anyone can access one, he can. Yeah.
I do. I mean, I've seen a lot more photos, and I'm sure all of us have. I know we've spoken about the Touring, over the last few weeks, but I've seen a lot more images on Instagram. I really do like the painted front more than the GT3, Steve, how it doesn't have the black plastic. And I like and I do like, and I know a lot of people have said this, I like how the nostrils are like more color coded. It seems more blended. The nostrils are slightly different, aren't they? It really is nice. And I saw the interior, some of the interior footage of it on YouTube. It really is a beautiful car. Actually, NL, whatever he's called, NL Autosport, I think the guy's called. He took one for a drive. It might have been the GT3, actually, not the Touring. And you see inside at night, and you see the dials, and it's like, it sounds pretty amazing. It really does sound pretty amazing.
Yeah, it does sound good. Like all the YouTube videos that I've heard, I watched, what's that dude, Luke, Cars with Luke? the guy in Switzerland.
Yeah, has he got one?
He got his hands on not the touring, just a standard one, the winged one. And his videos are always like really good quality. He sort of spends a lot of time on the crafting of his videos, and it sounds, even with the particulate filters and everything, it does sound really good.
Yeah, I think they've done a good job. I mean, I like the, how can you not like it? You've got to like it. It looks perfect.
Yep. Great.
What else? Anything else? Oh, what about that that charger? We're a bit all over the place again today. That charger
one thing it did make me think of when, with replacing my battery there's two things. Like, one is that I've got the same trickle charger thing that you've kind of currently got on your car, which is a really good idea.
Yeah, the C-Tech, which is
there's a Porsche branded one called a Charger Mat, I think they've called it, which is really old. And then you can get this C-Tech version, which just doesn't have a logo on it. So when I discovered that I'd flattened my battery, I tried to stick it on the trickle and tried to kind of get it, tried to revive it. Didn't work, blah, blah, blah. One of those things, generally you plug into the wall and you can either hook it up to your battery or you can use the cigarette lighter attachment to trickle charge your battery, as you know. But it made me realize that C-Tech have a new product called a C-Tech CS Free, and it doesn't require being plugged into a wall, which is pretty handy, like when you're in a apartment block like you or I, and if you don't happen to have like the power point next to it, I think it means that you can trickle charge just like normal, or because the unit's got a internal battery, you can use it sort of like a jump starter as well.
Yeah, I saw this on someone's YouTube channel. Maybe it was Shimmy150, or it could have been TGE. I remember they had
TGE. It was
one
TGE.
of them had it. I think Shimmy had one as well. I think he showed one.
Right.
So it actually holds the charge, does it? You charge the actual C-Tech unit up and it holds the charge?
Yes.
Does it tell you how long it holds the charge for?
It holds it for 12 months. Yeah, 12 months.
Ah, I did see a video about this. This is the same one you sent me. I think that is a great product. It was on TGE actually. Yeah, so it holds that. So you can carry it in your car, and if you break down in the middle of nowhere, there's no power, you have a power source.
Yeah, so it's just like any other, because I've got a couple of those sort of, like jumpstart packs. It's just a little lithium battery, which, you kind of connect to your battery and then you just kind of get yourself going. It will work like that. It also claims that it's got some smart technology thing in. So if you kill your battery, you hook it up, you leave it there for 15 minutes, the C-Tech will figure out how to kind of quickly charge your battery so it will then start within 15 minutes as well, which is slightly different from kind of jump starting, because you're obviously jump starting off the battery pack. But then it's also kind of capable of being a trickle charger as well. That's my understanding of it.
Look, I really like C-Tech products. I think that one I've got, that trickle charger, like you said, it's the Porsche have the same branded one, and I forget the number of it, M5 something, isn't it? I can't remember the number.
You, mate.
Oh, that's such a good product though. It doesn't. I mean, touch wood. It doesn't fail. It's a really good product. They're not that expensive, and even the one you sent me, this new C-Tech CS Free thing, it's not that. It's not cheap, but it's in Australia. I think in Australia you found it on special for like under 400 Australian dollars. But it's
$450, I think.
I know, but it's worth it. It's worth it. You know what I mean? It's a really good product. I think I will get one. I definitely will get one. Not now because I don't need it now, but I will get one.
Yeah, it just made me kind of like, I hate having an unreliable car. Like the times where nobody loves it, but it really kind of stresses me to kind of think that I won't necessarily be able to start my car, and that type of thing is obviously possibly very worthwhile. And
look, if you're looking for a charger for your Porsche, like, I know there's lots of brands out there, but I would, I like brands, you know what I mean? But I would go with the C-Tech one. I wouldn't look at any other brands for the charger. I know there's cheaper ones, and I know people have told me they've bought other brands, but I would, if you can do it, just get a C-Tech one. They're on, seriously, they discount. I bought mine on discount, and I think I bought it from somewhere in Australia on discount, and I got it quite cheap at the time. I remember it was quite cheap.
Actually, there's a deal on for the Aussies out there. There's a Repco deal. I saw it. It got fed to me on Instagram for like 90 think it was $91.
See, that's cheap. That's very cheap.
Yeah, so cheap.
Yeah, that's really good. I paid more than that. I think.
Yeah. Just sorry, while we're on the battery thing, I've got a public service announcement too.
Oh, really? What's that?
If your battery goes flat, you can potentially get caught in this horrible kind of situation where, because to get to your battery, which is under your front bonnet lid, which is electric, if you flatten your battery, you can't actually kind of use the little switch or your remote key to kind of pop your hood. So there's a few YouTube videos. It's actually in the kind of service manual, but my public service announcement is like, if you kind of think that your battery is on the way out, don't let it go dead, because it is a bit of a ball ache to then have to get to the battery under the hood.
Isn't the front release in the fuse box?
No.
What's in the fuse box then? I thought there was some release thing in the fuse box.
So what you have to do is you have to get like a battery or a jump starter. There's a little post in your fuse box that you've got to connect your battery to. You connect the positive post to this little thing in the fuse box that you have to pull out, and then connect the negative post to your door hinge to ground it. Then once you've got that kind of going, then you can pop the hood.
Pop the frunk. Wow.
To then get to the battery.
What a hassle.
And if that doesn't work, then there's an emergency release. There's a little cable that you have to get through your wheel arch liner. Like, this all sounds like, like me being a bit kind of dramatic kind of thing, but it is an absolute pain in the butt when your battery goes flat and then you have to kind of go through the motions of all of this.
Absolutely.
My uncle and his 991.2, this happened to him like a month or two ago, and he said the same thing to me, that his battery kind of went dead and he had to call the NRMA guy to kind of come out and help him figure it out.
So it's exactly the same on every 911, even new generations. That's the only way you can open the front. Wow, that's annoying.
Yeah.
How did his battery go dead? Your uncle's battery goes dead so quickly? It's a new, was it an old battery?
No. What year model is his car? It's more than, I think it's about 4 or 5 years old.
Right.
Yeah, anyway.
Battery talk.
Yeah, my tip is not to let your battery go dead flat, because it can be a little bit painful.
Good tip. Hey, I was just looking, and we'll just touch on this quickly because we're going to leave it a little bit short today. But
yeah, sure.
I was looking at, why do I always forget this guy's name? Sam Moores, isn't it? Is that his name? Sam Moores? Yep. Sam Moores, who has the Car Chat podcast.
Yes.
And I listened to a few of his episodes. I quite enjoy it. I don't listen to all of them, but I listened to a few of them. And I noticed he had for the listeners who haven't seen this, if you go to The Market, which is the auction site in the UK, online auction site.
That sponsors him.
That also sponsors him, yeah. But that's also the place where Ajmal, aka at Flat Cap Driver, bought his 912 from.
Ajmal, I didn't know that. Okay.
That's where Ajmal, if you go to the old listings, you'll see Ajmal's 912 still on there, I think. I think it's on the previous listings. It goes back a bit now. That's where he bought his 912 from. But I was looking, Steve, because, you said this thing about, would you buy a Porsche at an online auction? And I'm a big fan of like kicking tires on online auction sites and looking at Porsches on Bring a Trailer, Porsches on P-Car Market, Porsches on, what's the other site? Not so much the market. Collecting cars, yeah. So I'm always, I subscribe to all of them. I save cars on them. But I watch them purely, not that I'm not going to get one, but at the moment I can't because this week's been a very expensive week. But, I think about this online auction thing, Steve.
Why has it been expensive?
Huh?
Why, Michael? Why has it been expensive?
Because I need to tell the time. That was why it was expensive. That was one of the reasons why. So let's just go back. I was just thinking about this because, I had to look at the result of Sam Moore's car, and he's got an F40, and he's got a blue F40. It wasn't always blue. I think he had it sprayed, didn't he, Steve? He had it, went through Ferrari's, program. He spent some money on it. I got the impression when I heard him talking about this on a podcast, when he was talking to Magnus Walker on his podcast, that he possibly didn't spend top dollar for this car when he bought it. I think he's owned it for 5 years. 5 years.
It was a Liberty Walk car. When he bought it, it had sort of been messed with by, like that tuner company, Liberty Walk. So he bought it off them. It was their kind of SEMA show car type thing. And then he paid like this, the people that Ferrari used to kind of, to restore it back to kind of Ferrari spec, but then he had it painted, he spec'd it, blue, like, is it Tour de France blue?
Tour de France blue, yeah, which is a beautiful color. I think it's Tour de France, and he's got a really cool number plate. I mean, if you haven't seen it, have a look at his Instagram. It's a great looking car, and he's got heaps of videos. And like you said, he did it through the classic program, or whatever it is Ferrari has, where he got it all documented, I think. Where they replace things for original parts, and it's all, certified by Ferrari. I think he said the car originally was white, wasn't it? I think that Liberty Walk when it was white, yeah. So he's changed the car quite a lot. But it made me think, because Steve put on our notes, would you buy a Porsche at auction? And I would buy a Porsche on auction.
Would you? Okay, controversial.
Well, no, I would, because Bring a Trailer and those sort of things are auction sites. So would I buy one from one of those sites? Yeah, I would.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have a problem at all. I don't have a problem at all. In fact, I know Bring a Trailer now has become, 2 years ago when I first discovered it, I thought it was really cool. I think now the prices on Bring a Trailer are obviously inflated. I think you have to be careful on auction sites, because you can be very spontaneous. Like when Ajmal bought his, car, his 912 on a Saturday night off the market. And I think, when you're sitting around your flat at the end of the day and you've had a glass of wine and maybe you're depressed, maybe you're happy, and you see these cars come up and you think, it's tempting. If you're registered, Steve, and you got a credit card on there, it's tempted not to bid, right?
Yeah.
You look at it and go, and what I like about the
alcohol. Yeah.
Yeah, but I just want to get to the point. The point is, though, that I like these auction sites, and I think they're good. I think they're good because you get to see the different values of cars. Everything becomes more transparent. I'm going to do a podcast. I'm going to do a podcast with Nick at the Classic Series and Ajmal at Flat Cap Driver in the next couple of weeks. I've spoken to them briefly already about it through Messenger, through WhatsApp. I'm going to do it. We're going to do a thing about that, about the 912. Nick at the Classic Series does stuff for Haggerty now, so he does. He writes about values. He researches values. He also writes for classic, about classic cars and stuff. Ajmal's got experience because he's got his 912. He also has a MG, Ajmal, a classic car. So we're going to talk about the 912 anyway. That was the whole point of that episode. And I think it's going to be a good one because we're going to talk about values and all that. I'm getting a bit off track here. And I think I would buy something like a Porsche on an online auction. But there's a limit to how much I would spend, Steve. Now, maybe that's just for me because, if we buy a car from Bring a Trailer, it's in the US, you got to get it shipped to wherever you want it shipped to, right? I found this auction of Sam Moore's Ferrari quite astounding because it's £1 million car. Like it's sold for £1,050,000, which to me is just mind-boggling that, and I don't know what, maybe the people who bought the car had viewed the car, maybe they're in the UK, I don't know the true story, maybe they've gone and viewed the car, Steve, and they've seen it, and that's why they felt confident to do it on the online auction. But,
well, surely you would, wouldn't?
But what is the limit?
Who's going to go and buy a $1 million car sight unseen?
£1 million. £1 million, which is like 1.8 million Australian dollars. You know what I mean?
Yep. And that was one of the defining things of the market, apparently. Like the cars get held in a place and you can go and view it. Whereas I'm assuming that in a lot of other instances, I don't think it's that you can't view it like in some online auctions, but I think it's sort of one of the things about the market.
Okay. I'm probably testing my memory here. Ajmal went and looked at, I'm sure Ajmal told me at Flat Cap Driver, told me that he went and looked at his 912. Ajmal, I know you're probably listening and laughing at me, but I know he said he went and looked at it. But I think at the time he said he looked at it, but he didn't really get to drive it. He didn't get to look at it that much. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So maybe depending on the car and depending on the seller. But I thought Ajmal told me that he didn't get to really look over it that well. You know what I mean?
Isn't that the same, like old school, like for Australians, like the auction sites here used to be before, like, these types of auctions were all the rage, like Pickles auctions, say, which is sort of like, where the dealers might potentially kind of go to wholesale cars. You can go and view the car as well, but you certainly can't drive it. I don't even know if you can start it. You can take a mechanic with you who can visually inspect it, but you can't physically take it for a test drive.
You can check the records, right? Silverstone auctions, when Harry does that, Harry's Garage, and he goes through Silverstone auctions things. I think the market is owned by Bonhams now, isn't it? I think Bonhams own market.
Yeah.
But you can go through it. You can go through the paperwork. He always says you can check it. You can look at them and stuff like that. But it's funny you say about those old auctions. I remember when I was a kid, my auntie and uncle used to always buy old government cars from auctions in Sydney.
Cars.
Like they lived in Sydney. You know what I mean? She was a real estate agent. And they always were changing over their cars because they're continually buying them from auctions. Sometimes they get an old American, I think it was a Rambler or something. I don't know what it was at the time. They'd be buying all these old cars, and switching them out. And they were always ex-government cars, fleet cars, and I remember my dad was always against it. Like, how could you buy a car at auction? They're dodgy, you don't know what you're getting, high mileage, all this sort of stuff. And it's kind of weird how things have changed. And I guess it's the classic market. The strength of the classic market has really made online auctions. And also everyone is so much more comfortable in buying online. And obviously COVID, I think, has helped.
Well, are they?
I think they are.
That was my kind of question because... curiously for me, like Bring a Trailer's obviously been around in the US for a very long time. Collecting Cars kind of followed suit in the UK and is now kind of going global as well. So it's now, in the US and it's now in Australia. But from what I could kind of gather, like online auctions, there's a few kind of players in Australia. But the bits that I've kind of noticed is that it looks like... the selling prices aren't as crazy, like for Collecting Cars Australia, versus, like some of the kind of just crazy sort of prices for Singers and GT3 Tourings and all that sort of stuff that you kind of see where they kind of go off in the US or the UK. It doesn't seem like there's quite the same kind of hype in Australia and they don't go for the mental prices. So to me, I just kind of went, that probably means that... Australians aren't quite into it yet and they're not quite as confident, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, I didn't notice that until you told me that, and I started noticing cars that they didn't seem to be selling, they weren't making reserve, or they were selling low.
Not necessarily low, but just, like some of the really kind of hyped prices, like, $1,050,000, a million pound kind of F40 or like the crazy kind of Tourings and the $1 million Singers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It feels like anecdotally that you're not going to fetch that kind of price on Australian collecting cars.
I think the problem is that Australian and New Zealand and maybe people from Hong Kong even, if they're looking at Bring a Trailer, I don't think people from that side of the world, from Asia Pacific, East or whatever, would have any problems in buying a car off Bring a Trailer, right? I think for us, because we're limited, especially in Australia and New Zealand, let's say, we're limited with the choice, and Bring a Trailer gives us the global market, right?
Yep.
I think with the US, when you're a US buyer, if you're looking at collecting cars and you see a car, one of the cars is in Great Britain or one of the, you can see where they're located, one's in Sydney.
Yep.
I don't think those cars are getting, unless they're really super special like a Singer or something, Steve, I don't think they're getting... Yeah. That market, I don't think collecting cars has got a great model, but I think it's really hard to get that US market, to get those US buyers to buy that 911 that's for sale that you sent me, the 3.2 Carrera G50, which is cheap from Australia, when they've got so many options on Bring a Trailer and other options to buy. And the risk, you know what I mean? I think that's where it's not working. I think the other way around it works really, really well. I saw a really funny comment actually on collecting cars. There was a Ferrari that was for sale that Stephen in Sydney sent me and said I should look at this Ferrari. It's better than the Dino. I can't remember which model it was. Sorry, I can't remember off the top of my head. And I was reading the comments, and someone from America just assumed, and this is no slight on this person, but someone from America just assumed that it was a left-hand drive conversion. Like, this must be a left-hand drive conversion Ferrari because it's a right-hand drive. And the guy's going, no, it's an Australian-delivered Ferrari. We had these Ferraris in Australia. You know what I mean? Yep. And I think that's the problem. I think it's an unknown market. The Australian car market is too unknown, and I think this is why collecting cars, why the prices aren't showing those values, Steve, because it's too hard. You know what I mean? I think it's too hard for US, European buyers to buy from collecting cars or whatever it is, because they have... so much more choice, and it's easier to buy it from the US, for example.
Slight counterpoint, right? So, like, if you were in the market for a call it a 964
Yep.
not even something super special. Call it like a 964 Carrera 2, and you're in the UK, you could potentially look at Australian cars because they're right-hand drive as well. Like I don't think the design rules between the two, so I don't think there's like a great deal of difference between a UK delivered car and Australian car. And if one came up on Collecting Cars Australia, you could potentially pick up a bargain though, couldn't you? Because the price, because there's not as much competition here, if you really wanted it, you could potentially not have to kind of pay like these kind of crazy UK prices for it.
But aren't UK prices less than Australian prices on 964s?
I don't know. I thought that generally the collecting cars Aussie prices weren't as mental as.
Okay, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I thought.
I think things like 3.2 Carreras and SCs. I think you'll find them if you buy one from if you buy one from the UK, they're cheaper than Australia. Let's just go back to the Ferrari thing. Like a GT4 Dino is about £60,000 for a reasonable one in the UK from a reasonable Ferrari specialist.
Yep.
Which is probably a little bit high because by the time you get it in, it's going to be closer to 140, 135, 140, which is probably a bit high. So I don't know. I'm not sure. I just find it amazing. I just still find it amazing you can buy a car for $1 million on online auction. You have to view it. You could not buy it any other way. By the way, did you see that? Did you see on Collecting Cars that sold the Singer Qatar? I mean, we're doing a job for Qatar at the moment. The Qatar edition. It wasn't bad. It was actually I thought it was quite nice. Yeah,
nicely, quite a nice spec. The interior was a tiny bit over the top for me, but
I liked it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I don't know. The thing about online auctions, though, I'm slightly surprised that you kind of went, you definitely do it, because I reckon I'd be on the other side of that and kind of go, I don't think so. Because talk about Porsche, so you're still going to be talking about a car call it 100 grand or something like that, regardless of what type it is, blah blah blah. And if you don't get to see the thing, and you're taking a bit of a leap of faith, because really, like an online auction, you're not really buying from Collecting Cars. Like, they sort of say that they're vetting and stuff like that, but how much really? Well, they're not really there to kind of cover you if you sort of manage to kind of pick up something that was slightly misrepresented or anything like that, right? You're really just dealing with the person that's sort of selling it. So it's not like you're kind of buying, like a 20 grand MX-5. Like, if you're kind of buying $100,000 911 of any sort, and you don't really get to sort of see it for yourself, you get to ask as many questions as you want, for sure, but you don't get to sort of necessarily see it face to face. Potentially, you probably don't get to drive it. Pretty big leap of faith. So I'm quite surprised that there are that many people out there that are happy to do it.
Well, you don't get to see it, but like you said, it's the strength of the community, and I guess Bring a Trailer still has the strongest out of all of them, right? Because it's been around for longer. The strength of the community, the strength of the people the trust in the people who are commenting, and putting in their 2 cents, so to speak, and saying this is wrong, this is right, this is great, this is not great. You know what I mean? So I guess it's like opinions. I guess you have to see it like opinions from friends, even though they're not people that you know. I think, when I say you can buy it on online auction, though, I still think you need to, the seller still needs to be open to the fact that, they can they'll do a WhatsApp video call with you, or they'll do a, Skype video call with you, and walk you around the car and show you. You know what I mean? Yeah. I think that side of it, if they do that, obviously, if you have the opportunity and you can get a PPI, and I think some people have done this. I'm sure I've saw it in the comments for 912s on Bring a Trailer that have sold international people. I think depending on the seller, Steve, if you can still organize those things remotely, I don't see that as a problem. You know what I mean? I don't really see that as a big problem. It's no different saying buying something from European Collectibles or, any other sort of classic Porsche sort of dealer in the US. It's similar, really, in a way.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I think I also sort of slightly cynically think that I get what you're sort of saying about like the community kind of helps you to vet the cars and ask the right questions and stuff like that. But then similar to online forums, you know, like I think that also could be kind of counterproductive where people chime in with opinions that aren't necessarily that educated or, you know, grounded in pure fact. Like, you know, like it's really easy, like for example, when a car goes for sale on car sales and the PFA forum, you know, like kind of start talking about it and chattering and then sort of, look, I know everybody's just sort of talking. I don't believe there's any kind of malicious intent kind of involved, but you can sometimes start to read forums and sort of see people discussing a car and them start like the opinions kind of bringing in a little bit of negativity or criticism about a car that might be unwarranted. So how do you kind of vet that from a, you know, like an online forum as well?
Yeah, true. I don't know. I mean, if you buy a car off any online website, whether it be car sales, Auto Trader in the UK, you know, whatever, numerous sites in the US, and if you can't get to that place where that car is, it's too far interstate or it's too far in another state in the US where it's, you know, miles to get there.
Yep.
Isn't that the same as buying it from an online auction? Except you're only buying it from one seller. You're only talking to them. You might miss things that other people pick up on an online auction where they're vetting it, so to speak, and they're commenting.
Yes.
So maybe that feedback is still better than just buying it from a private seller. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with a private seller, but you know, you sort of see the pros and cons, and there's some strength in that you do have. It's more than one person. You're not just getting the seller's view; you're getting other people's views. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I know what you're saying. Yeah,
I think that side of it's good. But for me, Steve, there's a limit. I would never, and I don't have the money, but I would never spend $1 million on a car at an auction. I mean, unless you actually had time with the car to see it, to drive it, to look at it. You know what I mean? But when it gets like if it's a classic Porsche, of course, there's a lot more 912s available in the US or in Europe. You know what I mean? More so in the US. Or there's a lot more, you know, 3.2 Carreras or SCs. You know what I mean? And I still think there's bargains to be had. And I think, like I said, it depends on where you live in the world and what's at your doorstep. You know what I mean? And I think for people in Australia, people in New Zealand, you know, it really does. These auction sites and buying something online kind of makes sense to me.
Yeah, interesting. But I think it really obviously is dependent on your appetite for risk and all of that sort of stuff. I know exactly what you're sort of saying. Like, how is it any different from me like buying my kind of GT3 from Melbourne? Well, the difference was obviously that I tapped into Autohouse, who knew somebody in Melbourne. I kind of made all the kind of connections and had multiple people look at the thing for me, who I actually kind of did trust, blah, blah, blah. Like, if you can kind of go about that approach, and a car's in the US, not Melbourne, then yeah, for sure. But it's probably still kind of mitigating your risk by having, you know, people that you vaguely kind of trust checking it for you.
Yeah, and there's always a risk, you know. Stuart, that was on previous owner stories when he bought his 911 from the US. You know, he had a PPI done, and then when he picks the car, the car has an issue. He has to get it fixed in the US. I'm sure you heard that story, you know.
Yeah.
You know, so there's always a risk. You know what I mean? I mean, I'm sure you could get a PPI done, you know, for a car that's in Queensland, and when it gets delivered, there could be an issue with it. You know what I mean?
Of course. Yep. Of course.
So those things happen. I mean, I've heard some horror stories. You know what I mean? Like have been horror stories about people having PPIs done and then picking the car up or buying it from a dealer, and then something really bad happening to the car. I don't know. I think for me, it's a limit to the price. I wouldn't spend a lot of money. And like I said, for me, it's just like classic cars, and it'd be, you know, classic Porsches, and it would be, you know, that sort of price. Like, I wouldn't feel comfortable, say, buying something like a Ferrari or something on an online auction. I'd have to see it, and I'd have to have some kind of specialist check it out. For some reason with the Porsche, I feel more, maybe it's because you know more about the brand, I feel more confident in saying, yeah, it's okay to buy that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, right. Interesting.
I don't know.
I don't think I could do it, but
I got no
interesting.
money. I've got no money.
Nothing wrong with that, mate.
Yeah. All right. Shall we call it a day? I think we'll call it a day. I'm a bit tired. I'm sorry, guys. I'm starting to wind down. It's been a very, very long day.
Yeah, all good. All good.
So yeah. So what's the final decision there? Would you buy a Porsche at an online auction, Steve? Yes or no?
No, I would not.
No, I would. I would within reason. Like I said, it has to be not too expensive. And what's not too expensive? 912 sort of prices, I think, for me, like somewhere around 60,000 US maybe. I feel okay. That's still 100,000 Aussie, 60, 70,000 US. But it would need to be checked out. It would need to be, you know, I still have to feel confident. You know what I mean? I still have to feel confident in the sale.
Yep.
All right, mate. Let's
I'm
call
too
it.
poor to take those sorts of risks, mate. I'm way too poor to take those sorts of risks, so I don't think I would. I'm talking hypothetically, I wouldn't know.
I know look, Stephen in Sydney, who's been on Owner Stories before, who's getting the 912 hot rod done in Adelaide, right?
Yep.
He sent me that thing again the other day. I know you're listening, Stephen. He sent me the thing about that 912. The 912 Targa. There's a 912 Targa for sale in Western Australia. Anyone listening in Australia who's got more money than me, I'd say buy it. This car has been for sale for a long time. It's not perfect. It's in polo red. It's 55 grand, Steve, for a 912. I don't think it's matching numbers. I'm pretty sure it's not matching numbers.
Yep.
I think Stephen thought it was a bit high because it's not a matching numbers. But you know what? Every time I look at that car and it comes up, I think that 912 at that price is a really, really good project car. And if you could get it for, say, 10 grand less, you know, you'd probably buy it, you'd tweak the engine that's not matching numbers, or you'd find a new engine, you know, you'd change the color, you'd paint it, you'd do the interior, John at Pro Stitch, you'd get the color done in somewhere in Sydney at Atlas or the other guy's place, and you'd just make it special, you know, put great seats in it and just make it special. If you had the money, because it's a great base price to start at. Do you know what I mean? See, I'm a little bit disheartened. Can I just go back to prices for a second? I'm going to try not to mention the company because I don't want to slight them, and it's not a slight to them, but I was a bit thrown by this price. There was a car for sale in the UK, and it's been for sale for some time. It's a 912, and it was, if I say the price, people might know where it is, but it was £55,000, say, right? £55,000. Now, that car went down in price. It was reduced by the dealer. It still didn't sell. Nick at the Classic Series sends me 912s every now and again because he's got a 912. He's got his white one, and he wants me to get one, and people send me cars all the time. And he sent me this car, and I thought, wow. He said, this is a really good one. And I kind of half looked at it because I was busy, and then I looked at it again later in the afternoon, Steve, and I thought, hang on, I know this car. This is the car that was at that dealer.
Yep.
The guy's got it for $42,000 or best offer. Now, this is a car that was at $55,000. It went down to below $50,000. The guy that's actually the owner, who had it obviously on consignment or something at this dealer, is now selling it for $42,000. So what did it sell for? $40,000? You know, like, I don't know.
What's wrong with that?
What's wrong with that? Why is there so much buffer in there? Why is there so much margin?
Because a dealer needs to make margin.
But like that much margin?
Yeah.
That's a lot of margin.
Well, no, like, okay, so like, pretend you sell your car with anybody, like, you know, like you're not selling it privately. The dealer's obviously going to make their cut, and it's going to be, you know, sort of around, say, 10%. Yeah. So minimum will be 10%, right? So that's, you know, like a decent kind of whack. Then the advertised price that the dealer will kind of advertise it for, generally, I'm just making really broad strokes assumptions. They're probably going to sort of advertise it at a price higher than you might naturally would as a private kind of seller, because they're a dealer, they've got a reputation. People possibly might kind of pay more for the fact that they're dealing with a dealer because they've got to possibly put, you know, like a statutory kind of warranty on it. You know, like certain things. So like with buying a car from a dealership kind of comes like certain sort of privileges. You can trade a car in as another kind of thing. So a dealer price is always going to be higher, or, you know, generally than what you would sort of sell it for. So doesn't that account for the difference in price? Yeah,
I guess. But I guess what would surprise me is that it's on Facebook Marketplace, it's on Facebook ads. At the same time, it's on the sale at the dealer, and the dealer's price is so much more than its price on Facebook ads. Like, isn't that a little bit silly to do it that way? Like, it doesn't.
Yes.
In fact, if I was a dealer, and I really like this dealer, right? I really like this place. All right. I think they're really cool. But if I was a dealer, I'd be going, well, haven't you kind of like screwed me a little bit, the owner, because
Yes.
you've made me look
Absolutely.
really bad because you've got it listed at this price. You know,
Yep.
it's so obvious it's the same car. You can see the number plate and the interior is so distinctive. I mean, it's a beautiful 912, by the way. It kills me that I missed out on because it's a really good one.
Yeah.
And then,
Yes, undoubtedly they botched the sort of
So
marketing and the sales. for it.
why would the owner shouldn't have done that if he's still got it at the dealer, because then it looks really bad for the dealer.
Yeah.
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 And the description
absolutely.
on the description on the Facebook ad that Nick sent me has a lot more information about the whole service history, you know, where it was serviced and all. It actually has the description is much you know, much more interesting the whole way it's written. It's like everything about the car because it's from the owner. So I don't
Maybe
know.
the owner's
It's
got
all
the shits with the dealer. I don't know. It's hard.
I don't know. It's a bit weird. I thought it was a bit weird. Anyway, I just want to touch on that because we're talking about online auction and prices. So it's sort of like, you know, same sort of thing. All right, Steve, let's call it a day.
Okay, mate.
Thanks,
All
mate.
good.
Have a good week.
Have a good week. Yeah,
Yep.
you too.
All right, mate. Thank you. All right, everyone. That was Steve coming in from Sydney. My name is Michael Barth. That's it for today. Thanks for listening to the PorscheCooled podcast. Available everywhere. Thanks for listening. Bye for now.